Reserve. The root of all our evil, it begins with the Federal Reserve. Hey, yeah, well, let's go back in time when everybody was so proud of a man.
I'm Thomas Almonds. This is Year Zero. Today, Rachel Tobias joins me. I asked Rachel to come on following my episode with Buck about the book Nihilism to just talk about and have a discussion about avoiding nihilism. So it's just me and Rachel just chatting back and forth, talking about how to keep your mind in the right spot to keep moving forward, because that is a huge challenge nowadays. RyanBunting.com. For all of your graphic design needs, go to RyanBunting.com. Ryan Bunting is a great racist and gives a great hand job. He also does great graphic design. He dabbles in libertarianism and anarcho-capitalism, but don't let that distract you, because that hand job is class act, man. And his racism cannot be topped in today's society. So, RyanBunting.com for the best hand jobs and racist graphic design. Go to RyanBunting.com. LibertarianInstitute.org is where you'll find this podcast, obviously, Scott Horton's show, Liberty Weekly, Kyle Anzalone with Conflicts of Interest, Keith Knight, Don't Tread on Anyone, and many great writers, such as Kim Robinson and Jim Bovard. Sometimes we got Ron Paul popping up in there. Again, Liberty Weekly, Patrick McFarland does a lot of writing. I think he writes every week. He writes. We got Sheldon Richmond. We got all kinds of things going on at the libertarianinstitute.org. So go to the libertarianinstitute.org and keep up with all of the work that we are all doing over there at the libertarianinstitute.org. Thank you for your support. And thank you, Tom Burton, for the music. Enjoy the show. There it is. All right. I'm here with Miss Rachel Tobias. How are you doing, madam?
Hey, Tommy. It's good to hear from you, man.
It's good
Always
to see
a pleasure
you. Yeah. So, I just did an episode with Buck about the book Nihilism.
Yeah, I listened to that. And every time I think I discover something, it's like a monk wrote about it in the 70s. And I'm like, oh, that was good. Yeah.
That's such a good book. I think I said on the episode, too, that even if you're secular, even if you're not religious, you should read that book. I always think it's valuable to take in critiques and to absorb them and think through them and try to at least wrestle with them a little bit and understand that there's another side out there that maybe you don't agree with or understand, and that you can learn something from. And so I always appreciate reading things I disagree with almost as much as I like reading things I agree with. Although it is nice to get a pat on the back and be in your own bubble, at times. So there's always that.
I think, yeah.
No, go ahead.
I think it's a mixed bag. It's like on one hand, I'm always happy to have people like you present resources and books I've never heard of. On the other hand, I'm really tired of being wrong, but that's fine. It's a blessing.
Yeah, you talked about that on Lions of Liberty about how often you found out you were wrong. But that is like one of the best attributes about you. I've heard Pete say this about you as well, that like one of the best, most refreshing things about talking to you is that you are never concrete in your position. So it always gives everyone room to be wrong and learn something, which is like such a refreshing thing nowadays. It's rare nowadays, like to have somebody that's like kind of, I wouldn't say fluid, because it's not like you're changing positions, but you're willing to entertain new points of view that you haven't thought of before, which is I mean, I learn a lot from you whenever I hear you, talk. So
Thanks, man. I'm also trying to get better at shutting up and listening because I'm kind of like Matt, where I have all these ideas in my head and the majority of the people around me are not going to get it. And then by the time I go to a festival or something and I'm around other people, I just want to get it all out and have feedback. But I really need to listen more. I appreciate that. But it's not just being wrong. It's like I'm trying so hard to not incorporate, this is going to sound terrible, not incorporate like organized religion into my solutions in a way, because I'm trying to have as few assumptions about the world as possible. And I do get very empirically minded, where it's like I want evidence for things.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm kicking and screaming with trying to do that.
Right.
So much. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I get you. And I think all of us do that though, with like the thoughts on our head. I know a lot of times on my podcast, I kind of kick myself in the ass because I'm talking to somebody and they're saying something and they say something and it just starts triggering things. And I start getting these firing in my brain. It's like spark plugs. And I'm just like, hold on, stop. Let me say this real quick, because maybe this will put us in another path, or this is something we need to examine for just a second. And I do it a lot. And I feel bad at times. And then other times it usually just comes out where it sounds really fucking funny. And I'm just like, okay, well, whatever. That works, so add a little comedic touch to it on accident. Sometimes it's just me being stupid and saying something. And I'm like, oh yeah, that was retarded. I won't say that again. But see, that was one of the things about that book that challenged me the most, was like not being so empirical, like not relying on. That book did a lot to my thinking. It really did, for sure. It's not a long book either. It's like, I think it was like 97 pages or something like that. It wasn't very long. But it was something about it was written from a completely different perspective than I'd ever entertained before. And so, like, reading something from that point of view was so challenging to what I already thought I knew. And I was just like, okay, wait a second. And so as I watch things that are going on around me, I'll see like tidbits, and that book will pop back in my head. Like every so often, I'm like, oh, I see what the guy was saying there. Oh shit, and so like books like that to me are so interesting because it could be so short and kind of like a throwaway if you don't really pay attention to it. But if you really absorb what the guy is trying to say and you start paying attention to the world around you, you're like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. And that's why I tried to throw in things into the conversation that would relate to what he was saying. Like whenever I brought up to Buck about like the blood of tyrants and patriots being like the liberal equivalent to the blood of Christ. It's like you have to have the sacrifice of the many, and so it was things like that, like really like kind of popped off for me. And it was like, oh wow, that's such an interesting perspective and an interesting thought process to go through. And if he's right, and there's a lot of what he says that I think is right. I don't know if everything he said was right, but there's a lot in that book that I find to be correct. And so I'm thinking, if he's right, and we are in the destruction phase, which is kind of where I see us at, if we're at any phase in his book, we're at the destruction phase. How do those of us who don't want to fall into the trap avoid nihilism? And you had made a comment on Mark's on Lions of Liberty, on Mark's podcast, when you were talking about being positive, and you were like, yeah, don't be like perpetually positive because those people are annoying and you can't trust them, but which I agree with you on. But at the same time, you have to kind of like look at what's going on around you and what you can actually achieve, accomplish, and change in your own life. And so I thought that was a really good kind of like pickup point from mine and Buck's conversation into mine and your conversation, was to kind of pick up there from that. And so it really got me to start thinking about myself and the way that I deal with things and the way that my life is. And one of the first things that I realized that I never learned to do was take care of myself. It was something I never learned how to do growing up. I mean, I'm 42 years old. I still am not good at it. And it was because, a lot of it was because I had children so young, and so it was, and I was really broke. I didn't have a lot of money. I didn't have a lot of resources at my disposal. So I had to take care of my kids. So I didn't have that luxury of like really paying attention to myself and my own needs. And so that got me thinking, like, what got you through that? And it was purpose. It was like, just like, without like medical treatment or whatever, the taking care of the materialistic points of life, there's this abstract of having a purpose and having meaning in your life that can make such a difference to you and who you are and how you move forward in life.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Just to unpack that, because that's pretty profound, which is, and by the way, and I'm kind of the opposite of you, which is I don't have children. And while I work and I have responsibilities, we have very different lives, because you had so many responsibilities at a much younger age.
Right.
You know, I'm going to be 36 years old this year, and I'm in a much different place. You know, I went through the graduated college and was raised super religious Jewish and just had a totally different life experience. And while I would say that I do try to put other people above myself when they're in need, I've had a lot more time to take care of myself, and kind of the opposite of you. But I'm finding that while I kind of like, especially with all the craziness that went on with all the COVID bullshit, and kind of like where I live in New York is being a bit of the board, right? It's like, I tend to isolate myself because I'm someone who I can be manipulated very easily, in the sense of I'm very empathetic. I want to help other people. I want to listen to other people. And it's easy for me to, you know, not that I get pushed around, but it's easy for me to kind of get sucked into other people's problems and things. So I tend to isolate myself, and just so I can have some time to decompress and hear my own thoughts, right? And I know that I'm reaching the point where I don't think I can do that forever. I don't think I can do that long term forever. I think it's important to take some time out and to do that. And I also do have social anxiety, by the way, you know, where it's like I get to spend time with people I love to connect. I love going to Childerberg, or I just went to Pork Fest, and then I need a couple days after to just be alone, not have a lot of noise, and just kind of like sit with myself and stuff. But I think I'm kind of reaching the point where I can't just keep kind of doing that as a coping mechanism or being defensive about it. You know, I think we're getting to the point where if we're going to be building parallel societies with each other, I have to figure out how to manage that better, because, and I'm also trying to go to a place of more courage, right? Now is the time for action, right? And one of the reasons I love our group chat and the people within our chat is, while we're certainly people who challenge each other and we don't just agree or say yes to everything, I love that someone will easily say something and I guess something to chew on or think about or evolve from, which is great. And when you mentioned that book, I'm so happy, because if you haven't talked about that book on your show, I would have never heard about it. You know, I love that you pull from all these resources, and you don't tell people what to think and how to think, but you're just presenting another view, or because you're on this journey and because you're sort of discovering these ideas, I can watch you and I can kind of see, okay, your journey in that and learn from that too. which I appreciate. If you want to call it, that father, good cop versus Kaczynski's bad cop, maybe. Something.
Well, it was kind of like co-signing on Kaczynski from like a very more positive point of view.
Right. That's what I'm saying. The good cop, right? Yeah. Kaczynski's a little bit like heavy.
Yeah.
Perhaps this is like something we can do. And I'm finding right now what I meant kicking and screaming with religion is, in a way, it's like religion's one of the few things that's actually addressing anything spiritual. That's actually addressing anything psychological. We're talking about people's existential needs, because in the modern world, I think Pete might have mentioned, we're so bombarded with just like consumption to distract us and consumerism that you don't really, that whole like meaning and purpose just gets lost completely. And I think this is why people in general feel so nihilistic and desolate. And one thing, again, that just irks me, and I'm not an atheist anymore, I believe in a creator, but irks me so much is that when I come at things from a relative perspective, when I come at things of, hey, majority of things that in this universe is a human construct, it's very hard not to land at nihilism. It's very hard to say, hey, if it's us just making everything and it's on us to dictate morality, then what does it matter, right? If it's everything is subjective and relative, then like, what's the point?
Right.
Yeah. So I kind of like struggle because I don't like to be told what to do. I'm very protective of my free will and my agency. And at the same time, it's like being alone in the universe wasn't as freeing as I thought.
Yeah.
It wasn't as like this utopia as I thought. And we've seen the whole collapse of secularism and kind of like science stepping in for the role of religion, replacing everything. And it's been a disaster, right? I used to think of, I don't know if it was, I don't know who said the quote where they said, faith is the absence of reason. And I used to really hook onto that and think, oh yeah, absolutely. To believe in something without any evidence at all, that's called faith. That's just, you're being taken for a ride in some way. But we've just seen for the past few years, reason isn't reason. Reason magazine isn't
what
reason.
Was that? What is that LB said earlier? Faith is the how did he put it? He said something along the lines that faith is the logical conclusion of reason, faith is the logical conclusion of reason, something along those lines. And it was kind of like, oh shit.
That's kind of one of those, I forgot who said this too, this is terrible, but at the bottom of like the beaker in the lab or something, you find God or something like that. At the bottom of science, somebody once said that too. But anyway, no, the good news is in all the upheaval that we have, it has been a revelation, right? Like people have found out that the money's fake, they found out that education's fake. But in that, there's plenty of opportunity, right? In all of that sort of, just like the tarot card, just like that tower card where it's like everything gets shaken up and destroyed. And at least there's an opportunity to kind of start over and build anew. Right. And I think, we can be at the forefront of that, which is great. So I mean, some of the things in terms of positivity, like you mentioned, for me, it's taking some time to have gratitude for the things in my life, because even with everything going on, just the fact that Childeberg exists, just the fact that was just one person, Carr's idea, a satirical idea turned into a beautiful event that has changed people's lives. Right. Like just the fact that we still have the ability and capacity to do something like that is really a gift, So I think this is the kind of thing where people can either kind of hang on to all these falsehoods and go down with the ship, or they go, you know what, this is hard. I was wrong, and we're going to start anew. We're going to start fresh. So that can be a really good thing. And I think it's important to also create opportunity, because no one's going to come along and save us and just throw opportunity in our lap and say, maybe you have friends, I have friends who are like, hey, we're building this community. Would you like to join on our land? Something like that's great. But generally opportunities just kind of fall out of the sky like manna from heaven, right? We've got to build them ourselves.
Right.
So, yeah.
No, I'm just thinking there's like so much you said there, and I'm trying to like Maybe I should just keep a notepad right here and start taking notes. Maybe that. I know Monica Perez does that and it works for her. So maybe I should just take it out of her book and just be like, yeah, I'm gonna sit here and do this. Well, one of the things, go back to that book for a second. Part of what you were talking about just now, it made me think of this section of the book when you're talking about relativism, which he spends a lot of time on relative morality in this book. But one of the things he points out is he's like, anytime you are honestly seeking truth, there's only one truth and it always leads you back to God. And I've always found that when I'm really like looking like hard at truth, like what is true, what is objectively true, that's where I end up, is looking back in the direction of religions, like not one particular, but just looking in that direction. And because of my history growing up Southern Baptist, it typically has to do with Christ and God and in that direction. And so I didn't know if that was like an aspect of my background or if that was actually just the way it worked for people. And hearing him say, like reading that and him saying that, I'm like, huh, that's interesting. And so I'm very, very interested to dig into more people's stories whenever it comes to that. As far as, like getting back on purpose, it's weird because what I've found that I've been doing is my kids are all graduating. I have one more kid left in high school. So it's like, and I don't know, maybe this is some sort of midlife crisis. Instead of going out and buying a fucking Ferrari or a Porsche and trying to pick up 20-year-olds, I bought property. And now I'm thinking about like how I'm going to create this property into the best potential operation for my children. So it's like my children have always been my focus and my goal and my purpose. And like, even whenever after divorces, especially because so much of my work was in like put aside for child support and to pay child support and make sure that they were taken care of. And so it's like all this I do here now on this 9 acres I have now, it's all like forward focused on how are the children going to be able to utilize this. And so it's very interesting that purpose that I had through my 20s, now that my kids are almost like to the age where they're taking care of themselves, that's still my focus. It's just shifted in a different way. It's like, okay, now I'll take all this money I was spending on child support that I'm no longer spending on child support, and I'll spend it on property and building this property so that they have something whenever I'm not here. And it's like, there's something about having that purpose of taking care of your children that's very motivating, very driving.
That's really beautiful. And I think that that's so good because a couple things on that. I think that religious or not, no matter how you swing it, our purpose is to be is to be stewards of this earth, right? And to take care of the earth and to also, I don't mean a bullshit leftist climate change way, but just to balance ourselves and create a synchronatic ecosystem, a really harmonious ecosystem, right? And right. I'm not vegan or anything like that, but I think that when you look at it, there's a practicality, there's an importance to self-sufficiency, to having your own food, to being healthy. There's just, whether you're atheist or not, I don't see how any solution doesn't land on that. And I think that that's so beautiful that you're thinking of the future and that you're creating this for your kids, even though they're grown. You're still, even for grandkids, you're still reinvesting into your family in this really beautiful way that shows that you love them and you love yourself. And what you mean about purpose is something I think about is, I think that having someone or people are something that you would be willing to die for is like the only real thing that matters. And that's going to be the thing that's strong enough to keep people going, right? Because if people are just like, well, my main purpose is the LP or something, I don't think that that's strong enough that someone would die for it.
Right.
Right? Like you, it has to be so instinctual and inherent to you that you would do anything, right? For the people that you love. That's the fire going to keep you going. And I think that's beautiful that you bought that land. And that's so antithetical to like the typical boomer notion of older couple living in a condo telling their kids that you're on your own and I've done my time and I'm checking out. Right.
Yeah,
I think it's
your
so,
turn to take care of me now. Yeah.
Right. I think it's just really, look, I'm not trying to begrudge anyone. It's more like, I think it is so irresponsible for people to do that. Again, I understand people being burned out and working their whole lives. I'm not dismissing that. It's just to have a willful ignorance and to just like say, well, I did my time and I washed my hands of it and it's done, is to just kind of not give a shit about the future.
Yeah.
And kids and grandkids. So I think what you're doing is really meaningful and beautiful. You know, I saw that positive meme recently that said, you know, wise men plant trees that they may never live to see. Right. And so it's like you're building this foundation for your kids, and that's, you know, the best thing that you could do for them. Right. Is to give them that opportunity and something real and tangible. Right. Yeah. Is try not to cry. but that's a beautiful thing. That's so much better than a car, or that's so much better than a degree, or it's like something that it's that soil and blood that connects you to that lineage, right? And it's like you're creating this home foundation. You've already created one home for them, right? Like raising them and taking care of them, providing and protecting. And now you're trying to give them a leg up to their future and something they can connect to. And I think that that's beautiful. I think that's absolutely what you're doing, exactly what you should be doing. Right. Yeah. You know, and I hate to use the word should, but
well, yeah, no. I mean, that's what we're here to talk about, though. It's like, how do you avoid nihilism? You have to have a bigger goal than yourself. It can't be about you. Like whenever there are days where I stop and I'm just looking around and I'm tired and it's hot and it hadn't rained in 3 months, and I just sit down and I'm just like drinking a beer at 8 o'clock in the morning, and I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, why am I working myself to the bone? And I feel sorry for myself, right? And I'll go through a whole day like that, and I'll just be a goofy old drunk for a day and, do what I do. And then I wake up the next day and I'll be like, all right, well, you fucked that day away. Now let's get to work. Now you got more shit to do because you didn't do what you had to do yesterday. You didn't do 3 hours work yesterday, so now you got to do 11 hours work today. So it's like, and so, so everybody falls into that. Like anybody who thinks that everybody is happy-go-lucky and always positive and always working, and some people are always working, I guess. I know people that are addicted to work, but I know people that hate themselves so much they work out of loath for their own life. But the fact of the matter is, it's like, okay, you fell into a little pit. Don't let it stop you. Don't stop just because one day or 1 week or 1 month you were like, oh, feeling sorry for myself, yada, yada, yada. I'm a jackass. Yeah, we're all a jackass every once in a while. Let's just get on with our lives. What are you going to do to change what happened yesterday? You can't do anything about that. So you got to move forward. And adding on to what you were saying on Lions of Liberty, anybody who acts like they're always happy, they're lying to you. They're lying. like people, everybody has bad days. Everybody feels sorry for themselves. Everybody's human, you know? So these people that act like everything's hunky dory all the fucking time are just lying to you. It's not reality. And they just want you to admire them. That's all they're trying to do. They're grifting for your admiration and probably your dollars too, because they feel like, oh, well, if I make it look like I'm always happy and everything in my life is always great, these people will give me money to learn how I've made my life so fucking great. And it's like, no, you're fucking lying.
Yeah. And we can go to the other polarity of that, where you have someone like Alex Jones who does the doom porn. He's like, everything's not fine all the time. You are Lord.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, right. So there's kind of these extremes. The duality of man.
there is actually a mindset that I've found myself, and I like, maybe you can like break this down for me, because I kind of find myself leaning more towards the Alex Jones side more times than I'd like, and it's because it's because of the information I'm putting in my head. It's because that's all I'm reading. That's all I'm looking at. And sometimes I just have to stop. Like this past week, I didn't read for a week. I was just like, I can't do another week of this shit. So all I did, I would wake up in the morning, I would drink my coffee, I would listen to a podcast, or, you know, and most of it was like true crime or something like that, and just kind of relax and just listen. And then I'd get home in the afternoon and I'd go sit out on the picnic bench drinking a beer, and I'd play bass for like an hour, because it was like, I just can't be like feeding myself this negativity right now. Like, I just can't do it right now. And so I can actually see how somebody can become, like, literally become Alex Jones. Like, for real, not acting like Alex Jones.
Yeah.
For real, be that negative on a daily basis, because, like, if you feed yourself, all that you feed yourself is all that negative information that he's talking about. I'm like, yeah, I'd probably be a lunatic too, like, you know, watching tranny porn, you know?
Yeah, I was gonna say to that is, like, the quality of your life matters. I mean, I've tried to make some rules for myself. We're halfway through the year. I've got some aspirations. I'd like to get in better shape. You know, I would like to develop more skills and work on some of my own projects. I've got this bookshelf I love to read. I end up getting stuck on social media and kind of watching a lot of doom stuff too, and videos too. And I'm like, you know what? I have all these books sitting on my shelf that I would like to catch up on, and to really educate myself in these various topics, and then eventually talk about. So self-regulating is important, right? Maybe you have your doom quota for a week. You get 1 hour a week to spaz out or something. Maybe 20 minutes a day, whatever it is.
Right.
But the quality of your day-to-day matters. You know what I mean? How you wake up to. It's always a thing of, like, when I think about people who talk to Aaron Clary or call in to various manosphere stuff asking for advice, they would say, I felt like people were asking permission to be miserable most of the time. And I'm certainly one of those people who's like, okay, you know, to think of things as pulling yourself up by the bootstraps, no matter what the context or situation is really useful, because yeah, we have a lot of oppression and tyranny and all this bogusness, and it is like social engineers versus land stewards. That's kind of the way I look at it, right? The
technocrats versus the savages.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which would be, one of those would be a great title.
I like yours better, honestly.
It's like stewards of the land versus social engineers.
Yeah, it's like more poetic.
Yeah, that
like
could
me,
be a band.
I'll just punch you in the head with it.
Yeah, but you know, you wake up, you've got a gorgeous wife, you've got your kids, you've got this land you're working on, you've got your dogs, you got all these things that give you so much meaning and purpose. Like you mentioned, that's like the day to day, even if you have bad days or whatever it is, it's like, if you feel connected and you feel like you're right exactly where you belong, then you're doing something right. You know, if you feel like you'd rather, I'm sure for you most of the time, it's like you leave your house to go to Childeberg, and I appreciate that. But if you feel like you wouldn't be anywhere else, then you're doing the right thing, you know?
Right. And that's how it is for me. Anytime it's like time to leave the house, I'm like, I don't want to leave this place. Why would I want to
Yeah.
leave? I'm like, I'm setting it up. I'm really enjoying it. Like, so yeah, it's very hard for me. Like Childeberg is the one thing every year I do. I don't do anything else. I don't go other places. And so it's like, all right, like, you'll get me to leave this one weekend and that's it. Every now and then I'll go to my parents, every once in a while, like once or twice a year. But like other than that, I really don't go anywhere.
Childerberg and then visiting other realms for a couple hours. That's the only time you leave your house.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's why I love Owen Benjamin, because it's nice for him to explain to me his garden, his farm animals. It helps that he's funny, because if I'm just watching a farmer, it's a little bit more enjoyable to watch Owen Benjamin. And that's so nice because it's inspiring and you're showing people what they can achieve, what people can do. It's like, we all need that. So many people need that, just to see, hey, a reminder of, by the way, you can still achieve these things if you work on it.
Right.
There's no direct formula. There's no perfect answer, but like, hey, we can still really make something beautiful and we can protect it too. I think that's fantastic, because for me, it's like here in New York, I went to a Bitcoin developers meetup recently. And my attitude is, I don't know if I want to be in New York forever, but while I am here, I'm trying to make alliances. I'm trying to create a support network and go do that. And it's cool to see people excited about something and working on projects, and they're not just sitting around being miserable. And we're not just all miserable together.
Right.
So it's like everyone kind of doing these little things really adds up to something great. And even Porkfest, it took people organizing and volunteering, and imagine how much manpower was put into arranging a festival for hundreds of people for a week. That's quite a task, right? But they did it because it means something to them. It's important to them. As much as the Free State Project people are kind of fanatical and a little bit like, when are you going to move to New Hampshire? They've really built something beautiful, right? Even if I critique it or other people critique it, it's cool to know that there are people that wake up every day and do something. And something I want to say real fast is, how much has your life been improved because you had such great music to listen to, right? If everyone that was an artist or a musician stopped making beautiful things and just focus on the doom, we wouldn't have all the albums that we do. That has changed our lives, that has radically improved the quality of it. And that's something I forget. I'm an artist, and I had a show recently in my local, town. And it's like, sometimes I remind myself to just do those things, even if it's either activist or not, or associated with what I care about or not. It's a little bit like just to go be a regular person and just to go do something in my community to remind myself, hey, somebody loves this.
Right.
I love it, but like I do stand-up comedy because I want to make people laugh and make their lives better too.
Right.
So it's like, just to remind ourselves to not stop creating things. And it's like, I think that's one of the most beautiful ways you can show appreciation for God or gratitude for life, is to create something.
Yeah, no. And that's, see, that all this like really gets to the bottom line here, is that if you're just constantly looking at the news and you're constantly watching the culture war, especially, like, which is where a lot of people's focus is, on the culture war. If that's all you're looking at, if that's all you're paying attention to, then you're going to be completely miserable. Sometimes you like the meme, you can touch grass, man. Like, just walk outside and touch grass. Like, seriously, like, life is still happening outside, and it's not as chaotic out there in the real world as they would have you believe it is. They want you addicted to the screen. In the midst of all this chaos and drama, to keep you from being proactive. By breaking that bond and walking outside and becoming proactive and doing something that is above and beyond what you actually had to do, you're actually experiencing something much greater than that screen will ever deliver to you. even though you're getting these dopamine hits, when you build a chicken coop and you watch it come up from nothing to the finished product, and then you put your chickens in there and they start laying eggs in there, you know, and you're like, you know exactly where they're going to lay the eggs, and you know exactly where they're going to sleep, and and you're watching that, and you're like, wow, this is like really cool. I designed this life for these creatures. It's really an interesting aspect. Or you build, like, I have a high tunnel. I have 3 chicken coops and a high tunnel, my barn, and I have all kinds of stuff on my property and my pond and all these things to mess around with and you know, fiddle with and do things with. And it's like, all right, like, I can only let Twitter or the culture war or any of these things have so much of my attention before I'm like, okay, I got to go do something productive because I'm getting depressed now. You know, and it's so important to be involved in these ways. Like, whether like you're doing, you're being creative by stand-up comedy and doing art, and you're doing all these different things that are completely recalibrating your brain away from this online world, this kind of metaverse that they're creating for us, and living in real life. And real life is so important for people to be part of.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're always getting slammed with propaganda. So the system, for one of their tactics, is to make you think they've already won, because it's easy to get tapped into that doom and gloom, and they can only control a digital space. They can't control everything, and they know that, which is why they want people tapped and plugged into the metaverse, because they can really solidify narratives. And when you go outside, touch grass, like you said, it's a lot harder to control that all the time.
Right.
And so what I've decided to do is, when I'm on social media, is I know I'm being propagandized and I know I'm being influenced. So I decided to curate my own propaganda, where I'm trying to fill my timeline on social media or Twitter with women who own chickens and people that farm and do projects and stuff, and kind of like filter that and filter that and filter that, so that I start getting inspired and going, okay, you know what? I want to do that too.
Right.
And that's like a good thing. The minute you think, I want to do that too, then you're like, well, how do I go about it? And by the way, it's okay. You know, I'm a city-it. I don't live in the city, but I'm a domesticated house cat. That's something I realized like 2 years ago. And I kind of did the hardcore thing. I joined a prepper group in New Jersey, and I went out in the woods and did -10 cold camping and crazy stuff. I'm like, you know what? I see what I was getting at, but maybe I can kind of dial it back and just focus on, how do I have a chicken coop or something like that?
Look,
you know,
I'm a country boy, but I'm from the swamp. You're not getting me in -10 cold camping unless absolutely necessary.
Well, my good intentions were like, hey, if I'm domesticated, I should learn how to live in all these situations. And I realized, like, that's important, but a little impractical. I think I overshot what I need to do. Maybe
you got to put your toe in the water first.
Yeah, maybe instead of learning how to fight bears, I should dial it back and figure out how
to meet people that know how to fight bears.
that, or perhaps, you know, I'm trying to get into some herbal medicine. Or certain things that, like, I can get my hands on that are a little bit more practical, a little bit more day-to-day situational.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. I've learned there's a Brooklyn group that I've joined, and there are people who are against mandates, and they're, you know, truth seekers. I know it sounds a little cliche, but I learned one woman taught me how to make kombucha from scratch, which is basically making my own probiotics. And that's dope. You know, I'm still working on it. Jason's making his hot sauce from scratch. So we're constantly doing things and providing value. And that really keeps me going. When I see people try hot sauce and they woo, you know, like, it's a good feeling, right? It's like when I go to festivals and I meet people and I see the projects, or I see tiny homes, or I see their RVs or their various setups, like, I get inspired by that. And I think that's awesome. By the way, you know, and I guess I'm kind of projecting here. It's okay if you don't know how to do something and you, let's say, go on social media, or you say, I don't know how to build something. Does anyone know how to do something? People are more than happy to talk about it. You know, they're okay with saying, yeah, let me help you with this project, or here's some information. Like, people are more than happy to share what they're excited about. And like, it's okay to not know how to do something, because I feel like
people that know how to do what you don't know how to do, that you want to know how to do. Like, seek those people out. You'll find them.
Like at Childerberg, when I met people's dads from the South who know how to, you know, take a knife and rip out a cactus and do it in 5 seconds, my mind's like blown. The culture shock of something like that, and I'm like, that is me. You know, we got to have a family exchange program or something going on, you know, where I can like learn all these new skills or what have you. What we should do is have like, we'll have people like you. If you're like, your kids leave the house, you can take in a bunch of city people and you teach them the ropes, and we'll have a reality TV show about it.
I'll teach you how to field dress a squirrel.
And that's going to be like right away, day one. Do it right from day one. You're like, Tommy's got to nurture someone. He's got to torture somebody.
You know how to clean a chicken?
That's right. Instead of like kids going to college, we're going to have these like Southernizing programs.
It's called Redneck University.
Exactly. And then, that's going to be more useful than whatever Daily Caller nonsense is going to come up with. Whatever, Conservative Inc. is going to come up with. I'm not going to take them seriously until they show me how to skin a rabbit.
Boy, you ain't ever dug a ditch. You're 20 years old. I dug my first ditch when I was 14.
Exactly. And then so, instead of people paying all this money for universities, they can like go live with you. You set them up in like a little hut or something on your extra land, and then you have them dig.
I think they call that slavery.
Indentured servitude. We're gonna be like, hey, good news, we're post-libertarians, we invented slavery all over, and then everyone can bitch about it on their podcast. That was fun. And then they could be like, oh, they're not doing anything. We're like, we got people digging ditches. I don't know,
we're not doing anything because there are people to do it for us.
Yeah, or more so, what I'm really getting at is to kind of bring back that intergenerational knowledge.
Yeah. No, you are. I get what you're saying. It's just funny
because it's lost. It's a lot of it is lost, and it's unfortunate. And I think it's important. I'm not saying we all got to be anarcho-primitive, but I do think that
basic skills.
I think if we're being honest with ourselves and not trying to LARP, I don't really see how we can incorporate a lot of modern tech without it always being a backdoor to a new world order. I don't. There's cool people, there's cyberpunks, there's cool people that know about privacy and things better than I do, but I just think that, I don't know, maybe we can do Amish with like a couple of add-ons and figure out the right structure on that. I'm not quite sure. But I don't know. That's something to kind of think about, though.
I think the Amish were Ted Kaczynski before Ted Kaczynski was Ted Kaczynski, just minus the bombings. The Amish were like, yeah, this shit's going wrong. This shit's going to get fucked up quick.
They didn't jump on a horse riding like Paul Revere to the post office or anything,
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I say occasionally, I'm like, hey, why don't we do this reverse engineering thing where I think it's always easy to think that the grass is greener on the other side, or that's something we haven't tried before is like the right solution. I'm like, someone go check on the Amish and go check on if there's any right-wing communities in existence, because like I want to know what they've been up to for the past few years and how they've been faring, what things have been like for them. I don't personally know. Right. Because I'm like, if we have it in our mind that this is somehow this like insulated bubble, I'm very curious if that's still the way that it is.
Yeah. My only run-ins with the Amish were when I was driving truck and they were in the middle of the highway and I was behind them, and it sucked because they were going so slow. So that's it. I do know it's very hard to get a picture of them. It's weird. It's oddly hard. They can be right there, and you're trying to take a picture, and you're like, why is my camera not working? It's like they have this shield around them that it's okay. So yeah, I do know that's oddly difficult to get a picture of them. For I think about 6 months, I tried to get Beatrix a picture when she was still in South Africa, because I'd be up there in like Pennsylvania and Missouri around Amish and Mennonites and all that. And it was very difficult to get a picture. I don't know why. So there's that. Maybe they have something figured out on a metaphysical level that we don't know. So, but yeah, no, you know, it's part of it too is you can't always be serious about these things. Sometimes you just got to laugh about it. And that goes to your stand-up comedy. Like the laughter like really helps. Like one of the things I try to incorporate on my show to a degree is comedy and enjoying myself and having interesting conversations, getting in depth with people, but still having fun and laughing and being human, because it seems like a lot of people have forgotten how to laugh and just have a good time.
Or that it's okay to.
Yeah.
That they don't need permission to.
Right.
Yeah. I think you're really incredibly funny, but the difference between you and me is you say something mean and you mean it first. And then it just comes out funny, versus I'm trying to be funny and I don't know if it's as mean as I would like it to be. But part of that is my background too. I mean, I don't know what you know about my background, but I grew up like very poor. And then my first job, other than working McDonald's, was working in a machine shop when I was 17 years old, around a bunch of 30 and 40-year-old fucking oil field hands. And so I was just around this kind of humor that it was just like you either deal with it or you don't. And so you say things that are ribbing and that are like mean, but you say it in a way that is joking and like, you know, like if you can't put up with it, then you don't belong here kind of deal. Yeah.
Like, and so then after that, I went to the military and I was infantry. So that's a like really tough place to be too. You got to kind of put up with all kinds of crazy shit, and you have sick humor. You're talking about death all the time. And then I went back to the oil field and I was driving truck. And so this entire atmosphere that I was in from the time I was 17 and up till now has just been this kind of really dark, miserable place where people make these horrible jokes that sound mean if you don't know their jokes, but they're said tongue-in-cheek. It's said lightheartedly because that is how we like function. It's kind of like everybody talks about the reason that Jews make such great comedians is because of because of all the tragedy that their people have experienced over the years. You know what I'm saying?
I just thought it was IQ, but all right.
It might be. You might be smarter than all of us. Your jokes might be meaner than we're able to comprehend.
I gotta burn it. I gotta burn the IQ on comedy, or else I'm gonna wanna, you know, like figure out how to defraud someone. So I gotta channel it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, but I'm just saying, like, it was like my whole life, there was like this kind of like darkness, like that kind of enshrouded my entire life, whether it was struggling to have food on the table or working in these really difficult jobs, whether it was sandblasting or driving a truck or, you know, airborne infantry or whatever it was. There's this kind of darkness that kind of always enshrouded. And so my humor is very dark and it's very kind of like, I know it does come across mean, but I really don't mean to be mean. I'm really not trying to be mean. I say things that sound mean.
No, they're very raw. That's what I'm getting at. They're really unfiltered and raw.
Yeah.
You know, it's like if just a cigarette of some kind.
Right.
It's like your brand of humor. And I get what you're saying. And I guess for you, it's almost like you've worked almost so many jobs. You're just on the brink of mortality with this COVID stuff. You're like, Who gives a shit?
Yeah, I don't fucking care.
You're like, yeah, I can see it. And it's kind of awesome because it reminds me of, I know it's super cliche, but the yin yang.
Yeah.
Like there's always some good and some bad. It's like, well, in the darkness, there's always some light. There's always some humor to be found. There's always, I joke around. I'm like, look, maybe stereotypes are God's sense of humor. Maybe, I don't know. It's very possible. And then it's like when we have so many falsehoods, we just want to like fall back on what we know, and we're like, we know stereotypes. I don't know.
Right.
It's not like my opinion. I'm not saying how things should be. I'm just saying let's go back to just describing things how they are. But yeah, that's something, by the way, culturally, it's funny. I've lived in the Midwest. I've been to the South. So like in the South, right, if you're stupid, I've mentioned this to other people, they say bless your heart. They're very nice about it.
Yeah.
The Midwest, they're very like passive aggressive. There's kind of, and then there's like the West Coast freeze where people are very flaky, and if they don't like you, they just kind of won't talk to you. They'll just kind of phase out of your life. And something I will say to the East Coast credit, to New York credit, is people are rude because they're very direct. They're very short on resources and time. Where, I kind of appreciate you get a little bit of a pass to be mean, where it becomes like recycled into the charm of the culture. And I kind of like that. Like I had someone here once say to me like, oh, did you dye your hair? And I'm like, yeah. They're like, did you do it yourself? I'm like, yes. Like, I thought so. And I'm like, I don't know what that means. Like, what does that even mean? Like, people just say what they're thinking, and I appreciate that. And they'll tell you what they think of you. Yeah. I hear in New York, it's funny, I go to a festival and it's like Southern accents or this or that, and people are very nice. And then sometimes I go back to the East Coast, I hear a New York accent, and I'm relieved because I know it means that things are going to be open on time, that everyone's got something that they need to do, so they're not going to get in your way. Like, you just have... And on the other hand, I think in the Midwest, I'm like, those people are too... I know I'm overgeneralizing, I'm being unfair, but I'm like, those people aren't suffering and they're too comfortable. There's like the Midwest malaise, right? You end up like just chilling on a porch. You're not suffering enough. I feel like maybe the East Coast just attracts people that want to like suffer in this way. We all want to kind of like sharpen ourselves and compete and be better in that way. So we all kind of have to be.
I always said people that lived on the East Coast, like Northeast United States, were like sentenced there, like because of the sins of their father. It's like nobody really wants to be there. They're just stuck there. It's like purgatory. They can't leave.
Yeah.
So imagine my surprise whenever Bird and Top Lobster got out. I was like, wait, what? You can leave? Like, that's possible?
Who let you out? Yeah. Where'd you get your permission slip? I'm waiting for mine. No, but it's a little bit like with the East Coast thing, and part of the suffering becomes like the pride of it, and then you kind of end up with the sunk cost fallacy. You're like, I already did so much time here, and I already suffered so much that I don't want to be a quitter. I don't want to say I can't handle it. I don't want to, go somewhere else and be like, oh, it's Nashville, it's just as good. Like, I don't want to try to like dilute in that sense.
Did you?
But yeah, no, that's interesting. Yeah.
You know that joke by Joe Rogan where he's talking about like the Boston culture and how it gets so cold. He's like, you go out to your car and you're starting your car and you're like, fuck. Because it's so fucking cold, you're just trying to keep yourself warm.
Yeah.
And he goes, that's where the culture comes from. It's like, we're all in this together. It's like, that's why it's like such collective ideology up in the Northeast, because you got to huddle together and keep each other warm and shit like that. And I don't know, down here in the South.
You're saying, well, I've actually thought about this quite a bit, where I think about like a lot of people being gay on the East Coast. I'm like, I wonder if they're gay because it's like it's like kind of a domesticated kind of gay, because it's like a prison kind of gay. Like there's just so many people you have to survive. You know what I mean? Yeah, exactly. I like what you're
like,
saying. Where
I'll take the first hole I can get.
Gay just to like cut off. Exactly. Everyone's gotta, they say at my work, I know it's terrible. They'll say this. It's amazing. I'm so lucky to at least work in a place that's uncensored. They'll say, when the bear's hungry, bears gotta eat. Which is great. Yeah. Like I kind of wonder about that a little bit. But what I would like is for that East Coast aggression to just be like decentralized and distributed amongst everyone, where it's like, even if it's conviction over just nothing, just for people to have like the balls, the fucking balls. That'd be something like that.
Well, I think I told you this like last time we chatted. Like, driving, and I've been all over the United States. I've never had an issue with anybody from the Northeast. Not once. They never bothered me. It was always just like, hey, I'm here for this. And they're like, oh, good. Yeah, blah, blah, blah. Go over there, get done, leave. They were always nice to me, though. They were never rude. It was always like, yeah, go do your shit. And it's like, okay, yeah, I'll go do my shit. As a truck driver, that's what I want to do. I want to go do my shit. I want to get the fuck out.
Right.
The only people I ever had an issue with are in California. I hated those fucking people. I hated every single person. It didn't matter if it was in Oakland, San Jose, fucking LA. It did not fucking matter what part of California. I hated every fucking person I met in California. And I still love Ancur, because Ancur is the best. But still, every person I ever met in California, I met Ancur at Chilleberg, so, that...
Yeah, you know what I thought about? You know what the difference is between the East and the West Coast too? Is like the East Coast people can be very social justice and very idealistic, but they also hate people and they're bad at hiding it. And I think like, everyone kind of has that understanding versus the West Coast. I think it's like they feel like they do really evil stuff. And I'm talking about the people in charge, not everyone living in California, obviously. But it's almost like they've created that more of a social credit score for themselves where they have to out virtue signal each other, and they're kind of like locked into that, versus at least there's some freedom on the East Coast where you're allowed to be rude, you're allowed to be aggressive, and you're allowed to be direct, and that's kind of acceptable within that culture. So I don't know what has more freedom, right? A culture where you can be yourself in that way, or where you have to kind of be nice to everyone all the time, but you're allowed to have a gun. I don't know.
Right.
I don't know. But it's obviously there's differences, right? But it's something worth thinking about too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love the South though. Like you'd have a hard time. You're going to have a hard time getting me to leave the South ever. I love the South. I love the people. I love the culture. I love the food. I'm just like, this is just, it sucks sometimes when it's hot, but like other than that, I'm like, whatever.
Well, that's why y'all have no crime. I was thinking about it because it's too fucking hot to do anything.
Everybody's too tired.
It's just too hot. You know what I mean? It's like
you get out of the shower and before you get to your car, you're already soaked with sweat.
Yeah, and then something I thought about on the East Coast is it gets really, really cold. So it's like, there's at least a high barrier to entry to survive on the East Coast, because you got to be cool with the cold, and some people are like, fuck this. That's why like California's crazy, because everybody moves to California because the weather's so great. So okay. I will give that, kudos to the East Coast too. It's like, well, if you can make it through the winter, you can get, some kind of peace and quiet and some kind of privacy.
And so, okay, so that's why the people in California are such dicks, is because they're like, if you want to live here, you have to earn it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to prove your worth. And so you have to get through our dickishness.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I could see that. Right. And Gavin Newsom is just like the poster child. They're just the most phony reptile you ever met. Like his teeth are so white, I don't trust it. You know what I mean? He's just so like it's just I think it's like, I don't mean to just sort of place everything under Hollywood, but it's like that's why Hollywood is just so square in California. It's just so
it's
like
all
this,
so fake.
yeah, that whole like silicone thing, and then yeah, absolutely. But no, I love Southern food. I love Cajun food. I love like, you know, I saw Doug Stanhope do stand-up comedy in New Orleans, and Jason and I sat in the second row eating fried chicken at this dive bar. We're at this dive bar. We're just hungry, and there happened to be a chicken place across the street. So we're like at this dive bar watching him do stand-up. But it's like, you can't really do that in New York. You can't get away with that nonsense.
He's one of the best comedians around today. I love Stanhope.
Yeah, he's pretty great. And then but I could kind of see why a lot of comedy comes out of the East Coast, because you're kind of like, well, you're surrounded by people, it's hyper competitive, and you got to make them laugh or they'll kill you. So maybe there's like an essence. There's just an essence to that. You're like, go to the festivals. I do stand-up comedy. I'm like, don't shoot me. I don't know.
Please
maybe,
laugh.
But, yeah,
it's like the Jeb Bush meme. Please clap. What some I appreciated about the South and Childerberg is, I'll remember this is like robust person. I'll put it to you that way. And he's cooking, and it's 8 a.m. and it's really hot. That heat. Jason and I were just chugging water the whole time at Childerberg because it was hot. And there's this guy cooking. We say to him, like, dude, do you want some water? And he goes, no, I'm good. I'm hydrated. I already had a Red Bull and like 3 Bud Lights. We're like, what's wrong with you? Yeah.
What is that? So it's like, you know, just kind of like going to festivals or meeting new people or going out of state and other places and kind of experiencing their culture. It's just, that's really, I mean, that's a beautiful, positive thing too. And that kind of makes me feel really connected. I'm like, oh, there's these like really funny, just salt of the earth people like yourself that I enjoy getting to know, and and your dogs. And it's just like, that's kind of uplifting too. That's so moralizing. Having something to look forward to is just so invaluable. So it's like, not only do you have your land and your purpose and your kids and all these things, but it's like, you know what you're supposed to be doing the next day.
Right.
You know what I mean? Having a schedule and having a plan and being like, okay, I gotta get up and I gotta do this. Having people count on you is like, it keeps you accountable and it keeps you going.
Right. Yeah. Well, shit, man. I think we covered it all. I think we white pilled everyone.
Yeah.
I hope so. This was fun.
Yeah, so hey, you know, and it's cool to just, you know, kind of shoot the shit a bit and talk about this. And one more thing before I go and wrap it up is
we're gonna get to one more thing. Go ahead.
Okay. Something I realized, and this is gonna sound weird, is I like doing things that put a smile on my face almost without me thinking about it. That's how I know I'm going in the right direction, is when I'm talking to someone or I'm doing something and I just realize like I'm smiling without even, and I kind of realize it after the fact. I'm like, okay, when it's like a subconscious thing,
right? When
you're happy in a subconscious way, and then it kind of, you realize it, you're like, okay, I'm on the right track. I'm doing the right thing.
Or something something you do and you think back on, and it just puts a smile on your face for no other reason other than thinking about it. Yeah,
absolutely. So I hang out with family here. I see my nephews and nieces, or, you know, have an art show or something, or listen to Timeline Earth. And I know it's a podcast and I'm consuming content, but I start giggling to myself and I'm like, you know what? Like, this is awesome. This is fucking cool. I'm like, this makes me smile and laugh. And it's so powerful against whatever the New World Order like is trying to just constantly push down on us.
Trying to suck your soul dry.
Exactly. Like, that's fucking profound.
There's also something about knowing the podcasters that you're listening to. It's like something about it is like when you hear them make certain phrases or certain remarks, you like get a vision of them at that moment and you're like, oh Jesus, this guy.
like knowing that Bird exists and how ridiculous he is, and that he hadn't slept at 3 days at Childerberg, and I couldn't tell the difference between whether he's at a full day rest or not, or meeting like Will, you know, Wendell, and talking about philosophical things for 2 hours. And
I love Willie.
That he held out on me. I would have loved to have a discussion about tilapia, which is probably like the logical extension of the birds aren't real thing. It's like, that's fantastic. And it's the little things, you know, like I enjoy harassing Jason about the moon landing. That's one of my favorite things to do, because every time I tell him some of my stand-up jokes, he just starts getting serious about it and correcting me on the moon landing. I'm like, that's not the point, bro. Like, amazing. You know, it's just, you got to laugh at this stuff. And I think I'd mentioned, I've talked to his mom before about Bill Gates and Fauci. And I'm like, you know, I'm just like, what do we do about it? She goes, well, if things get really bad, the earth will just swallow everybody up. And I'm like, what about us? And she just goes, like, that's
what can you do?
like, amazing. I wish I could just like go about my day today with that attitude. Like, we should all be more like that. You know, just
like, what are you gonna do?
Revelations. It's like, you know.
That's awesome. Well, what do you got to plug? Plug away.
Okay, I got my artist website still, Murda Studios, AMRTA Studios.com, still doing that. Let's see. I mean, my Twitter is kind of one of the few social media things I have. Rachel D. Tobias, RACHEL-D-TOBIAS. I'm going to be working on some projects, maybe come out with a limited podcast because I don't want to commit to a thing. So we'll see. I'm working on possibly like a matchmaking site for people that are like right-leaning, libertarian, something truth-seeking, something like that. I'm trying to come up with, you know,
You're
solutions.
Call it Truth Social?
Truth. I'm going to call it best of luck to you.
Have fun.
Yeah. We're going to match people up based on their like preference and what kind of chickens they like to have. We'll figure it out. So I'm always trying to think of the future and think of projects and think of how can I contribute and make people's lives better. And that's something that keeps me going too.
My dad used to always tell me that dating someone's ex is a lot like buying someone's used car. It's going to have a lot of troubles and a lot of baggage. I'm trying to figure out how you could like name your matchmaking website something like usedcars.com, but
we could come up with like, you know, by the way, I once had a guy say to me, he's like, my dad gave me dating advice. And he said it was so bad. He goes, you got to treat like the whores like queens and the queens like whores. And I'm like, what? We got to have, in addition to a matchmaking site, I think we should just have, you know, dad advice site or something like that. And whether it's useful or not, we just got to have all these isms.
Yeah,
like,
just come up with like the worst dad advice ever. Treat her like a postage stamp, lick her sticker, and send her on her way. And
amazing. But you know, the last time someone did that, I mean, it might have been Ted Kaczynski. I don't know.
Yeah. She blew up at university the next day.
I've heard, you know, it's that's at least we do have a lot of good projects and things to look forward to.
Definitely. Yeah. Well, all right. I got to get ready for Buck. So
awesome,
yeah, man. I need to take a breather just for a second. I
don't mind fluffing you, being the fluffer for Buck.
All right,
what an honor.
Well, he was convinced we were both going to get off here, so maybe we should do something real quick.
All right, don't be too East Coast gay. Keep it a nice, light Southern hospitality. Just a hand job.
A bear's got to eat.
Right. That's gonna haunt. If anyone should take anything away from this podcast, let that line haunt them for the rest of their lives.
All right. We'll talk to you later.
Man. Peace.
Bye.
Said you're just a slave. All your good good intentions took you to your grave. Your pride is how they killed you. With the flag you wave just like a fool. They promised you a mountain, gifted you a stone. They demanded that you throw it into your neighbor's home, and then seize all that they worked for and give it to the throne just like a tool. Well, as we all just stand in line and glorify new ways of being cruel, seems to me humanity is not something that they're teaching us in school. They dumbs down all around, propaganda, their pollution. They set a cage up on the stage, a facade for all solution. They build a wall, block them all from this mental institution. It's insane. And they're crossing all their T's. They're fashioning their people to all wear beggars' knees. If you want a clean drink of water, well, you must say pretty please. It's all a game. As we all just stand in line and justify these crimes done in our names, it seems to me authority and tyranny are both one and the same. Well, it's time to change the channel. It's time to set things right. Make them all rot with fear in their beds at night. Devour all their worthless souls and sacrificial right, just like we should. Of those who are to blame, and we'll stack them up like cordwood, watch them sizzle on the flames for good. Well, as we all just stand in line waiting for some kind of Robin Hood, our liberty will never be until our right to freedom is understood.